You are performative. You might be wondering what I mean when I'm saying that. Let me explain with a little story about my life. It was about 1 month ago when I was at my parents' house with family and friends celebrating Eid, which is a Islamic celebration. And there was this moment and a part of the night where me and a couple of family friends were just hanging out in a room, and there was this girl that was there who I've known for quite a long time, but not very close with, barely see them. And I remember there was this discussion going on at the time where I was talking to a different person who was next to me, and that person was basically talking about how they're really getting into doing puzzles and how they always do like 1,000 piece puzzles and how they really enjoy that. And I asked them, what do you do with these puzzles after you make them? And she answered, oh, well, I usually just break up the puzzle again and put it back in the box. And the other girl, who's the center of the story, was listening to this conversation between me and the person next to me. And I was speaking to that person and I said, oh, well, why don't you, instead of putting it back in the box, because you've put so much effort into making that puzzle, why not frame it in a way or something and, just keep it for yourself as a memory? And the person next to me responded saying, oh, kind of just can't be bothered. And I'm just like, oh, okay, it's kind of surprising. I don't know if I would want to do that myself and frame it, but I thought, yeah, it makes sense. It's a pretty cool idea. It's something hard that you've worked on. Why not? Especially if it's a cool puzzle, like it looks like a nice piece of artwork. So the person in this story, the other girl that was listening in, she listened to the story and she looked at me and she's just like, oh, the only reason you want to do that is because you're performative. And I heard that statement and I thought to myself, wait, what? And I responded to it. I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, you're performative. And I'm just like thinking, I was like, hang on, in my head, that actually feels like an insult. To me, if someone's calling me performative, it feels like they're calling me fake in a way. And I was like, in my head at the time, it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, wait, why would you be calling me that based off this conversation? And then she actually continued, this person. She said, oh, it's because the only reason you want to do the puzzle is because you want to impress other people by showing them your work after. And I was just like, well, you really took this way too far. That's not really why I said what I said, but I remember later that night, I was actually really, really frustrated. I was really, really frustrated because I felt like this person called me out in front of, a bunch of other people, essentially calling me fake by using the word performative, making me out to seem like someone who tried to do things only to impress other people, i.e. performative. And she got that from just that story, that conversation I was having with the other person. Like I said a little bit earlier, the reason why I thought it would be a cool idea to frame the puzzle was because, it's a piece of your own work. It's nothing any different from painting something and wanting to put it up in your house. But anyways, the point of this story, the reason I'm rambling on about why I was triggered because I got called performative, was because for about 2 weeks, and I'm not kidding, for about 2 weeks, I would be at night brushing my teeth and just, it would keep ringing in my head, the fact that I got called performative. I'm like thinking to myself, how dare she? I can't believe she called me performative. What does she know about me? That's just like calling me fake. And I thought about it and I just kept getting annoyed until it hit me about 2 weeks later. When I was like, wait, hang on. Aren't we all performative? Aren't we all, throughout many parts of our lives, performing in a way? How did you become who you are today if you didn't, for a part of your life, perform in order to get there? If you think about it, if you're someone now and you want to be someone slightly different, right? You want to establish different behaviors or portray yourself a different way, you initially need to exert effort to do something unnatural. And that unnatural thing is you need to behave a certain way or do a certain thing differently. For example, if you're not someone who gets up at 7 a.m., you usually get up at 8 a.m., you need to start intentionally getting up earlier until getting up earlier becomes a habit. And then you repeat that habit, you maintain that habit over time until it actually becomes you. Another example, say you're not someone who usually speaks up, right? You're someone who tends to be quiet, you don't really voice your opinions much, but you want to become someone who does voice your opinions. You do speak up sometimes. You want to become that kind of person. So over the course of a few months in social situations, you start telling yourself before going out to social events, you know what, today I want to speak up a little bit more, right? But it's not who you are at a baseline. You need to exert a bit of effort to do this. So when you're out in these social events, you start to be someone who you naturally kind of feel like you're not, right? You're performing. So in these social settings, you start to perform and speak up a little bit more. But as you do this over time, this act of performing feels less like performing because it starts to become more natural as you start to speak up and it becomes a habit. And once that habit sticks around for a while, guess what? You're no longer performing, it becomes you. The point of this, the point that I'm trying to make is that we all perform in order to survive. It may sound crazy saying that, but that's what we have to do. If you think about it, if you're in a situation where your life is at risk, actually, you know what, let's talk about the animal world. There are many animals out there in the world that have to perform in order to survive. If an animal sees a different animal in a different species as a threat, it may try to make itself look more scarier in order to instill fear in the other animal. Or say, for example, you get a bear. I don't know, you're in the American mountains or like Yosemite, right? And you're on a hike and you come across a bear. There's this saying that goes, if it's brown, lay down, and if it's black, fight back. And what that means is if it's a black bear, fight back. Pretend to be the bigger animal by sticking your arms out and trying to seem scary and screaming at it, i.e. you're... Somebody buzzed the doorbell and I lost my train of thought. But anyways, back to the bear story. In order to survive that situation, you have to perform in a way, right? It's what you do to kind of fake it to make it. But coming back to, this scenario where this person in the room was calling me a performer. I was being performative. I was trying to do something to impress other people. I no longer take that to heart because it finally hit me that, you know what, we perform to survive. We perform in order to become someone new. We perform in order to become the people that we want to be, because in order to become natural at something, in order to become naturally someone else, you do need to initially perform. And one thing that I'll finish off with is that in order to build a new skill or a new habit specifically, you do need to perform. And when it comes to the habit of communicating enhancing your communication skills and presentation skills, a lot of people tend to cringe at that specific skill to build, because they particularly do feel like they're being fake by trying to enhance their skills, because they're learning to speak in a way they don't usually. They feel like they're performing, like they're being someone that they're not. But the reality is that we tend to feel like at times that we are a certain way, and that we speak a certain way and we act a certain way because that's just how we've behaved over the last few years. But the reality is that it's only who we are right now because it's the way we've behaved, right? But if you change your behaviors, you become a new person. There's this saying that I once heard from Bin Zhang, who's a world-renowned public speaker, where he goes, your voice is like a piano. It has 88 keys, but you spend most of your life only playing 3 of them. What he means by that is that you've got a whole bandwidth of your voice, and you've got so much to tap into, so much that you haven't actually tapped into yet. You've just stuck to this little part of the spectrum, but you've got this. And it's so easy to believe that it's only this amount, this bandwidth that is you. But the reality is you've got all of this. And the only way you can tap into the rest of this is by performing and kind of being someone that you're not right now for a while, until you do become that person. Anyways, that's it from me. Funny story about how I got triggered, and then it led to a whole deep realization about how we're all performers and we need to perform in order to survive. That is it. Thank you for your time.